This week, Steph Lauer and I talk with Lori Brand about her debut thriller, Bodies to Die For, that we both just are obsessed with. We can't stop talking about this book. It's amazing. I can't believe it's a debut. I can't believe everything that is contained in this book. But so I don't spoil anything, I'll just read the synopsis so you guys know what you need to know. Popular fitness influencer Gemma has transformed herself from a before into an after, complete with washboard abs, a thriving business, and a gorgeous husband. But social media can be deceiving. Offline, the cutthroat world of bikini bodybuilding may just eat her alive. That's if she's not first devoured by the secret nemesis that lurks beneath her polished surface, waiting to destroy her. Software engineer Ashley is fat and frustrated with failed diets, with a world that wants her to shrink, with biased doctors, online trolls, and even her own mother. Until Ashley falls in with a mysterious and radical sect of fat activists who are fighting back by any means necessary. She's never felt so alive, so full of purpose. She'll do whatever it takes to ride this high, destroy diet culture, and win the approval of her charismatic leader. But when Gemma's toughest rival turns up dead and more fitness girls fall like dominoes, it's beginning to look like the body image war has gone too far. With breakneck pace and keen insights, Bodies to Die For takes a hard look at social media, the $70 billion diet industry, and the war on women's bodies, the wars we wage with each other and with ourselves. So I'm speaking for both of us here, but Steph and I have talked about how both of us almost just like feel this need to tell people about this book because some people are going to get the wrong idea about the book or not want to read it because it like takes place with a fitness girly. So I'm just going to say here at the top of the episode what I said in my review. If you saw it anywhere on Instagram or Goodreads, if you're nervous that this book is fat shaming, is skinny shaming, or is anything shaming, you don't need to worry, because this book is so not that book and just really talks about the relationship that we have with ourselves and the way that people talk about other people's bodies as well. But it is also just a fantastically fun thriller that just has some of my favorite tropes in it. And I just really, really loved how Lori meshed the hyper-competitive fitness world, like turned it into a campy thriller setting. So I just cannot say enough things about this book. I loved it so much. There was a part at the end that made me tear up. I think we talk about it a little bit in the episode. And definitely check the link for, there's a link in the show notes for why Lori wrote this book. And she talks about it a fair amount on the podcast too. But if you have any interest in knowing what inspired her to write this book, or also if you're on the fence about reading this book, I would recommend reading about why she wrote it. So check that in the show notes. And otherwise, enjoy this conversation with Lori and Steph. I was reading your author bio, and you have been a gymnast, a dancer, a Playboy model, a bodybuilder, and now you're a yoga teacher, a group fitness instructor, and a software engineer. So
software quality engineer. Quality engineer. Yeah.
Quality
okay.
engineer.
Yeah. I don't code. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, okay. There we go. But amidst all of that you've done and writing for fitness magazines, when did you realize you wanted to write fiction?
So I think I first, I had thought about writing, years and years ago. I just kind of had toyed with the idea. Like when I was in college, I took a creative writing class because I thought it was interesting, but I never really much pursued it. I wish I would have in hindsight, but I didn't. But then I first kind of got serious about it about maybe 10 years ago. And I wrote an entire book. I wrote a whole book, wrote the whole thing, queried it, and it went nowhere. It just died. I had some people, different agents, request partials and fulls, but ultimately nobody was super interested. And I probably got about maybe 60 queries in or so. And I was starting to realize from the feedback I was getting from the people that did request partials and the people that did request fulls, I was starting to realize it was going to need some work, right? I was going to have to, I don't know what, I just wrote the book. Like I didn't have a really good understanding of story structure or anything. And so I was starting to realize it was going to need some work. And for some reason, I didn't really feel like putting in the work. I feel like that was a story that I needed to write because I needed to write that story. Like I just like it was like something in me that I had to get out of me, and then I got it out of me. I got it on the page, and at that same time, I was going back to school. I've been a stay-at-home mom for a number of years, and then I decided to go back into school. I got a master's in biomedical engineering, and so I was busy then like studying for like school, and then getting a job, and it just kind of, I don't know, I didn't feel compelled, right? And then nothing happened for a number of years. Maybe like 7, 8 years, and then all of a sudden I started to feel like driven to write again. And my kids at that point were older. They were like in later in high school. So I had a little more bandwidth. And so I started writing another book. It's not this book. I started writing another book, and I was about 20,000, maybe 30,000 words in. And then something happened, which we can talk about in a minute, but something happened in the news that really caught my attention. And I kept thinking about it, and I kept thinking like I wanted to write about it, but I was like, no, I'm already, 20, 30,000 words into this. I'm going to just finish this book. Maybe I'll write about the other one later. But I just kept getting pulled to this other story. Like I just kept getting pulled to this other story. And finally I was like, you know what? I'm just going to set this story aside. I'm going to start to write this other story. I'm going to see how it goes. And I wrote like 5,000 words in like maybe 2 days. And I was like, you know what? I'm going that way. And I just went that way, and I wrote that story because I just couldn't shake it. Yeah. And so, so that's
and
when,
that
I guess.
was Bodies to Die For, correct?
Yep. It was originally when I wrote it, it was called Body Wars, but it was but it's the one that eventually became Bodies to Die For. Yeah.
So you have, I want to say this at the top here, you have a really cool blog up on your website about why you wrote it. So I'm going to put that in the show notes for anyone who wants to like read that at length. But I know you talked about there were 2 things that kind of happened in the news that really stuck out to you and inspired you to write that. So you want to talk about that?
Sure. So, and I remember it really clearly. So in January of 2020, Jillian Michaels was interviewed on BuzzFeed News. And when the subject of Lizzo as a role model, a body image role model came up, she said, why are we all talking about her body? Why aren't we talking about her music? Because it's not going to be great if she gets diabetes. And social media just blew up, man. It just blew up. And there were so many people that like just hated Jillian. And then there were all these other people who came to Jillian's defense and were like, we have to quit glorifying obesity. And but then other people were saying, the healthy at any size movement is a really good thing. There's a lot of people who felt very shamed by their bodies, and to have a bigger person living her life and making music and being considered beautiful, it's a wonderful thing, and so that was the first thing that kind of pinged, that really kind of got me like, about both sides of that argument. And then a few months after that, Adele had posted a picture of herself, a birthday picture of herself on Instagram, and she had lost a considerable amount of weight in the picture. And she wasn't posting a weight picture. It was just a picture of herself on her birthday. And all these people came out, and it generated all this controversy. Like her body, her birthday picture generated this controversy. And people were saying that they were disappointed in her. They felt that she had let them down. And like, she doesn't know anybody, her body, but, because they looked up to her as a role model for the body positivity movement. But then she came out, I think, later on, a while later, and she said, she had been going through a dark time, and she had started exercising because exercising made her feel mentally strong, and it helped her get through this dark phase. And that it just happened that she had lost some weight. And it really got me to think how both of these ideas, right? The fitness inherently, there's a lot of good about it, right? A healthy body, sometimes frequently can lead to a healthy mind. Like if your body feels good, it feels good, right? It can help you feel mentally strong. It's good for you to eat like nutritious foods and to get some fresh air and some exercise. But having have been, a dancer, a bodybuilder, and a gymnast, I've definitely like seen that ugly side of fitness, and that's maybe a little bit more mainstream. A lot of people are aware of that uglier side, but then also the healthy at any size movement. There's so much that's so good about that. I think when I grew up, I think if there would have been larger people who were role models, who were comfortable, say, wearing a swimsuit at a beach and feeling confident and sexy, that would have been a good thing. But then seeing that there was also this uglier underside of it where people, if they're losing weight, are all of a sudden now being like judged like they owe the world their body. I was horrified by that. And it was this thought of these like polar opposites. What if they clashed, right? What if they clashed? And I thought, that was something that I really wanted to explore. And Bodies to Die For came about because of it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's such an interesting concept. And those were like, when I was reading that earlier, I so clearly remember those events happening because there was so much conversation about it.
It was so much conversation. Yeah.
Yes.
Especially, like, I know a lot of people in the fitness space too. So a lot of the people I follow are in the fitness space. So it's all over my feed,
Yes. Yeah. Like I remember Joe Rogan was talking about like, leave Adele alone. Like, what are you guys doing? Like everyone was talking about all of it.
I know. And the thing is, she didn't even ask for it. All she did was post a birthday picture of herself. Like you should be able to post a picture of yourself on your birthday without anybody commenting on your body.
Yes. Yeah. Or acting like it personally affected their lives. Like that's like, because they were calling her like a traitor and like it's just absurd. And the thing that I think is so absurd about it is what the book encapsulates as well is like body positivity obviously started out more with overweight or less conventionally attractive people. That's where it started, because that's where they weren't getting that was the group that wasn't getting much positivity. Like if you're skinny, you were probably getting positivity about your body. So they want body positivity, and then to your point, then it turned into this extreme thing where like where less traditionally attractive people were wanting it to be like, we can all feel beautiful. Now it's like they're like, but if you try to get skinny, you're not agreeing that we're all beautiful, and that's just not true either.
It was that, right? It was this policing of other people's bodies that nobody owes anybody like their body, and and we don't know what anybody else is going through, like for all somebody might they might lose some weight because they're really depressed, right? Or maybe they have cancer, right? Or maybe somebody gains some weight, but maybe they've gained some weight because they were battling a really serious eating disorder and they're just trying to get away from that. Or maybe maybe they've recently like quit doing drugs, of some sort. I volunteer I teach yoga at a homeless shelter on Saturdays for women and children, and very frequently we'll see it's a long term, it's a transitional housing. People will stay for like 4 months, 6 months, but very frequently we'll see people who will come in, they'll gain some weight, and a lot of times it's they've quit being an alcoholic, or they've quit doing meth, or they've left a really dangerous relationship, and they put on a little weight, and here these people are making really good positive strides in their life, but they're like, oh, but they're worried about how the world is judging them on how they look, and it's just discouraging, so
it really is. And there's so many, I think what you're pointing out, there are so many reasons people gain or lose weight. And
Yep.
that's where
Yep.
it's just like,
Yeah.
it's not for any of us to like think we know why someone is gaining or losing, because there can be good reasons you're gaining, there can be good reasons you're losing, there can be bad reasons you're losing, and bad reasons that you're
it's
gaining.
ultimately nobody's business, right? And it might be a very personal reason, you know, and it's just and the thing I was really trying to get at towards the end of my book is that you know, so often we say, well, society this and society that, but you know, who is society, right? Society is all of us. And and you know, I really believe like we as women need to quit ripping each other down, because when I was looking at those feeds for both Adele and Jillian Michaels, it was overwhelming. So many women were just ripping on each other. And it's I mean, we need to quit tearing each other down, right? We're stronger together, and strong women lift each other up. And so that's really what I was trying to like, you know, get across in the end.
Yeah, I don't think it's a spoiler. If we feel like it is, I'll just cut it out. But what I thought was so cool was that finding strength was the character arc for both characters.
Both of them. Like, both of them.
Strength is what saved them.
Yep, absolutely. And I was really careful on I hope it's not. I'll let you determine if you think it's a spoiler or not, but I was kind of careful not to. I never say, I make sure that Ashley never loses weight. The most I ever say is that she towards the end, looking in a mirror, she sees muscles she never knew she had starting to pop out. So I leave that up to you to interpret however you want. But I didn't want her happy ending to be that she lost weight, like wink wink, but she really did lose weight. Like that's not the happy ending, right? The happy ending is that she gets strong, right? She gets strong, and that's her happy ending, you know. But I don't know, maybe that is the spoiler.
It's so important. It's so important where you were talking about too, where like it helps your mental health so much. Even if you're not losing weight, there you feel like a different person when you're like challenging yourself with like a physical workout each day. Like it makes a difference, and it made a difference for her too.
Yes, absolutely. I believe in that so strongly.
It's crazy how much it helps your mental health. That's like the number one reason. Like there are times when I am not losing weight from working out, but like my sister-in-law and I both kind of have different reasons that happens sometimes. And she and I will have conversations about it, and we're like, but I'm not going to stop, because like that's not the main reason I'm doing it for. Like I feel powerful and I feel capable when I'm doing it. And then I'm less anxious and I sleep better. Like there's so many, it's all the like non-feel victory things.
Just living life daily, right?
So
of like important. I can do things because I move this way, or I can maybe do something by myself that maybe I couldn't do, or when I get older I may be able to get back up if I fall down, whereas if I wasn't, like, you know, you think about the longevity of why you do it. It's so cool to hear. As a previous personal trainer, I love hearing this conversation. Like I love that.
Yeah.
Cool. Don't you feel like, as we were talking about all these things right now, it shocks me that maybe they're out there, but like it lends itself so well to a thriller. And like, where are the thrillers in this space? Because the intensity of emotions that we were just talking about, regardless of if it's even somebody close to us or not, like the intensity of it, I mean, it's a perfect thriller setting. So how did you connect those two things?
Well, so, you know, I think I originally started thinking about something sort of like this even longer ago. I went to something when I was first getting into writing for fitness magazines. I went to something called Fitposium. It's since been rebranded. I can't remember what it's been rebranded to now, but John Patrick is a photographer. If anybody's listening to this, if you're interested, just shoot me a DM and I'll look it up and I'll tell you. I actually thank him, or James Patrick, at the end of my book. He's one of the people that I thank. And it says what they've rebranded to, but I can't remember what they've rebranded to. But anyway, he had something at the time called Fitposium. And it's where it was like where 400 people converged in Arizona someplace. It was like this fitness thing, was mostly fitness models, people who wanted to become fitness models, but I wanted to get into writing for fitness magazines. There's like a handful of us that were like writers and photographers, but the overwhelming majority were like fitness models. And it was really funny. I was and I met some wonderful people there I got to be friends with, but it was like 400 really hot women at this hotel taking selfies of themselves just constantly. Every time you'd be talking to them, they'd be like, oh, let's video ourselves doing this. Or like if you'd get a drink and like you do cheers, they'd redo it. We'd have to do everything a few times while they videoed it, you know? And like I was one time, like I was in the gym downstairs with a whole bunch of all these other really attractive women, and like some guy walked in. There's just some guy, and you could see he was like something's weird. He kind of like left the gym. Like he didn't know what was going on, but he thought maybe he was almost like being set up. But I thought this would be like such a good like mockumentary type of thing, right? Just the weirdness of it. And that's when I first kind of noticed like the weird kind of cult like thing about sometimes people in the fitness industry. But then at the same time, I started then doing, you know, some different bodybuilding shows. And then it was even weirder, right? I mean, Steph, I think you said you've done bodybuilding shows. Have you ever done a bodybuilding show?
I have had close friends that have done them, so I kind of like followed along.
Okay. It's very kind of, it gets weird, right? Like, cause you're hanging out with people who, you're sort of in a bubble. You're hanging out with other people who are like you. So you almost don't realize how weird it's getting, you know?
Yeah.
And you know, like just like I hate to use the word obsession, but like the rigidity with like counting because you know, you're you're calculating those carbs, you're calculating those fats, you're calculating that protein, you know, like the big hair, the spray tans, just the craziness of the show settings. I mean, a lot of the shows I've been at, like weird things happen, you know, just something weird happens. You know, somebody has a seizure or somebody, people get in screaming matches and just all sorts of craziness. And, you know, cause people are like depleted. They're like starved and like carb depleted or dehydrated. And, I was just like, man, there's a lot of craziness. This could work well. I used to always think it could work well. And then when that thing happened with Jillian Michaels and Adele, I just was like, I'm just going to pick it up. I'm going to put it at like the Olympia, which is like the biggest bodybuilding show in the world, and just let all the crazy loose, you know? So yeah.
How did you pull from your experiences to kind of like create the whole world of Bodies to Die For?
So, just from my experiences, you know, preparing for shows and being backstage at shows, I will say I almost wanted to throw it at the end of the book, but I didn't in the acknowledgments, and maybe I should have. Overwhelmingly, bodybuilders are actually really nice. I will say they're some of the kindest people that you'll ever meet, but you can't have a bunch of kind people in a thriller. It's just not going to work, right? So I tried to take like the worst of the worst, you know, but I've just seen a lot of weird stuff happen. And stuff that like I was talking to a girl who was talking on the phone to her coach and some guy who wasn't there, and he was just screaming and yelling at her, just berating her. I don't remember why he was yelling at her, but she was like, okay, I won't, I'm sorry. And I was just standing there, and I was like, after she got off the phone, I was like, what's with your coach? And, you know, you know, I don't know. It's just sort of like, I don't know if it's that you're kind of in this whole thing, you're focused on that day, you know, that I don't know. You're in a bubble of getting to that stage, you're so focused on that like some weirder things will be going on that you just have to like set aside. Or even when I would compete, and I never was professional by any stretch, but even when I would have a show coming up, there would be lots of things I would set aside because I didn't want to, you know, like how Gemma in the book, kind of like she knows her marriage is falling apart, but she sets it aside because she's focused on, I got this show coming up. This isn't the time to rock the boat. I just got to get through it, you know? And then, too, I've known quite a few people too, who, and even myself, after a bodybuilding show, after you get really, really low, because you kind of deplete yourself for that show, you carb up a little bit at the end, but still you've been at a pretty low weight for a long time, that in the next few weeks, you kind of want to gradually bring your weight up a bit. But a lot of people will blow up, right? Because all of a sudden you'll start to eat and you'll just be like, oh my God, I'm like really hungry. Like you'll be really hungry for like 2 or 3 weeks because I think your body's just so stressed out because you just did that to it, you know? So there's a lot of things about it that aren't terribly healthy, you know, like even though it's fitness, it's a corner of fitness that can have some unhealthy aspects potentially. Yeah. So I just reached into there.
No, I know. And I feel like you did a really good job of like, the point is the extremes on either side can be unhealthy, like no matter what.
Right.
Yeah. And then too, I think, you know, you had mentioned that, that article or the blog that I wrote about why I wrote it. Steph, I don't know if you know this, but like, so when I was 10 years old, my dance teacher had her jaw wired shut. And so that was, so this was my first real encounter with diet culture. I actually had pretty normal, good parents. So I wasn't used to things like this. And my mom was driving me to dance. And I'd been in dance since, I don't know, maybe I was like 3 or 4 or something. And my mom was driving me to dance lessons. And she says, oh, you know, Barb's not going to be teaching for the next few months. She'll still be there, but she'll be sitting off to the side. But Jill's going to be teaching. I said, why? And she said, well, because Barb had her jaw wired shut. And I said, well, why? My mom said, because she wanted to lose some weight. And I was like, so she had her jaw wired shut? And my mom was like, yeah. And so she drops me off at class, and all the other little girls get dropped off too. We all go inside, and you know, some of the moms walk their daughters in, and like it's just business as usual. And so over the next few months, I watched Barb get smaller and smaller and smaller, and I'm just shocked by this, that like nobody's freaking out. You're right. She's got her jaw wired shut periodically. Like she like sucks on a protein shake or some kind of shake where like her cheekbones pop out and she's just in a corner. And then at some point I did something, I don't know, to warrant her attention, but she put her finger out and kind of, you know, come over here, like with her finger. So I tap over there in my tap shoes. And I don't remember what she told me, but but like there weren't any moms around. And so I was like, you know, this is like my chance. And so I said, did you really have your jaw wired shut? And she said, yeah. Or she said, yeah, with her jaw, because her jaw is like that. I said, you know, can you show me? And so she put her finger on the side of her lips and she pulled it back, and you could see the wires zigzagging up and down between her upper and her lower teeth. And they were like fangs, they were like metal, it looked like fangs. And it was so freaky and startling for me. And I was only like 10, but it left such an impact on me. You know, how important was it to be thin? It was that important, right? And so I think ever since I've been about 10, I've just been I've had like this heightened awareness of that, you know, and then I was a gymnast and things like that. And, you know, then I think I told her I was a stripper when I was in college on the side. So it's just a very heightened awareness of perception. And it all kind of came crashing to my head when I finally decided to write this book. And just how damaging it can be too. It's not just damaging to people who don't have that conventional, you know, body. It's damaging to everybody, right? I was at a very normal size when my dance teacher did that, and it rattled me, and it pretty much let me know at a really young age, you better not gain too much weight, or you might end up with your jaw wires shut, you know? Right. So that's it. So it's damaging to everybody. It's damage. The 80s were terrible.
Yeah, I was just about to say that generation. Like I have people close to me from that generation that are small people, and the amount that they talk about their body, I just back.
It's ridiculous.
You know, nothing you can say to change their mind about it.
No, right. We've all been brainwashed,
and no wonder there's this whole piece of the world rebelling against that, right? Like no wonder. But then it is interesting because it's like, well, like we were talking about before, there are probably quite a few reasons why people may be interested in making a change. And they're not easy, right? Like they're a long game plan if you're doing it the right way. But like if you're right. wanting it now, like that might be something that's wow. I don't know. There's a lot of impact in there. Wow.
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah, I thought what you were mentioning, that blog that you have about it, because
Yeah.
you then go on to talk about like other times where thin
Yeah.
was like the obsessive thing, and like how many times in your life you were
Yeah.
encountering it. Like you had a friend where I had read a book recently that talked about this, or that had this in it too, but how like the bulimics and anorexics, like the anorexics look down on the bulimics because they just can't not eat. Like
I was so shocked. I was so shocked when I heard that. I was completely shocked. But yeah, even and then you're an inpatient. You're an inpatient in the hospital. You think of anything, you'd all kind of band together, but not judge each other. But even there,
that's what, and it actually when I read your blog about why you wrote it, I have a really good friend, Sagi Schwartz, who was on the podcast as well, and her book deals with eating disorders, like a girl who was inpatient for a long time with it. So I sent it to her too, because she also works with girls with eating disorders. So she like loved reading everything that I sent over. But she was like that it was reminding me in her book, the girls in the inpatient program, she like dives into how much of it is a perfectionism disorder. So it's like, that's why all of them are like, I am the best one. So like the girl who literally is starving herself to death, like one of the characters is really losing so much weight, but she thinks she's better than everyone else. She's like, I'm still better than all of you guys. So it's like, it's so miserable for the people that have it, because it's even like an ego thing. Like they feel good for doing it well. So it was reminding me of her book a lot. But then you even go through how then new moms, everything that new moms are obsessed with is bouncing back. So it's like every stage of your life, no matter
that's what I
like
couldn't believe. That's what I couldn't believe. That's what I couldn't believe is, I mean, so when I worked as a stripper, okay, fine, right? You're making your money off your looks, fine. But, being a stay-at-home mom, get a group of women together, and what are we doing? We're talking about that, we want to lose weight. But then you could even say, well, I mean, not really, but you could even say, well, maybe or something. I don't know. But then even then, now that I'm an engineer, get a group of women together. A lot of them will be, we're accomplished women, right? People who have solid, good jobs, who are making money off their minds, right? Like these are really confident women who will tell you, you're doing this wrong and this is why I'm here, so you got to fix it. But, have lunch with them, they'll be like, oh my God, I feel like I've gained like 20 pounds, and it's, you get a group of women together. It's one of the things that we all do, and it just, so I just wanted to, and I'm not trying to throw shade on anybody. I'm just trying to like look at this really, really complex thing, I really wanted to look at it from all sides in my book, on just all the different angles,
It's really interesting you bring that up, because I mean, I was sitting there, like, I think I wrote this in my review, like I was zoning out during this book because I felt like it was saying so much, but then it was also like fun and messy, and like I felt like it could be like a really awesome reality TV show. I don't know, like you said, documentary. Like it had so many things, but then I was like, well, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, because of all the things we're talking about.
Very much.
But then like you were just saying now, I couldn't help but think, like, how do we talk about this book to let people know? I can just see people assuming right away, like, it's about the fitness world. I don't want to read about skinny people. I don't want to read about this. And I'm like, but it's not. Like, it's exactly what you would want it to be if that's how you thought it might, like it goes against what you think it might be in the best way. And
we were actually worried about that.
I'm like, no, it's not that.
I know. We were both like, we just feel like personally inspired to like make sure people know, like, this is not that book. Like, there's no shame in this book. There's just like the characters struggle like with their own like inner critic and like the way they talk to each other themselves.
We were Blackstone, I think they were a little bit worried about that. There's been fear that it could potentially have like a Goodreads takedown or something. I don't know, but I think but so far it's been well received. I think I've had about 40 or so reviews, and people have said, there were some people who went into it saying that they were afraid it was going to be a book that was going to make them feel bad, and if anything, it was an uplifting book, because really the message of the book is, and especially, so I'm 54, right? So I've lived a long time, and if you've lived this long, you've seen how society's standards constantly change, right? You can never please everybody, right? You'll never, ever, ever please everybody. It's an elusive standard. Beauty is an elusive standard. And so instead, that's why the thrust of the book is to get strong, right? Because that's, if your goal is to say, walk a mile, or to do a push-up, or to, squat 100 pounds. I mean, these are, you could set goals for yourself, attainable goals, and whatever those are for you. And you can see yourself slowly start to hit these, and you can start to attain some confidence. And that's when I had written this book, and it was called Body Wars, that was ultimately how you were going to win the body war, was by walking away, right? By walking away from what society wants, and instead walking towards getting strong, and instead of tearing others down, working together to lift them up. Yeah, that was ultimately like what the thrust of the book was supposed to be,
Yeah. I feel like so the thing that I really enjoyed too was just the variety of perspectives, like because even there's not just two perspectives even, so it's like it's like also like Ashley has experiences with like doctors just like disregarding her just because she's overweight, and like that is something that happens.
It really is something.
But then on the flip side, it's technically true that not being overweight will make your health better overall. So it's a fact. It doesn't mean that we have to have shame either way, where your body is. But I thought it was just really cool that like I was still seeing little bits of like all of that in there. And like where was I going with this specifically? This is where I was going with it. I feel like on both sides of the perspectives, you had like sometimes some like snarky commentary on it. Like sometimes it would still have like that feeling, but I still felt like the tone of the overall book was really neutral. It wasn't prescriptive, and it wasn't saying like, and this is, well, I mean, going for strong is kind of the prescription, I guess, in some ways. But I thought it was cool that like you even did like kind of like sub perspectives on each sides of the perspective, and how even a lot of the things are true in different ways, but mainly it's just like, let's not use those things to like shame each other on either side.
And I think if we can understand, I just wanted to make, I just tried to make it so that you could understand where everybody was, at least, even if it was misguided, where they were coming from, like what sort of background that they had that brought them to that place, that's where they, that's why they think, like they do, right? So that you can have some, either like some compassion for them as a reader, or just have some understanding as to, why it's, why they're thinking that way,
I also really loved, like, for example, Andrew and Kylie's perspectives, because I'm sitting there thinking about like, there's always been athletes and coaches, but then now there's social media, and you're trying to make a living as a coach, or whatever your job is, and you're posting pictures, and then there's Andrew, who I'm like, man, this almost seems a little satirical and over the top, but it's not. Like, there are people out there who live to scroll and make comments and are judging on body types when they have no business. They do not work hard.
They're like living in the basement with their parents, right?
Like, oh my gosh. And so it is literally. It is fascinating, because like those are those moments where like that Andrew type of guy, or Kylie, who is like, well, I'm going to hire you to do this, but I'm actually going to judge you and comment on your stuff because I wasn't willing to do the work, and I'm going to blame you. And so it's amazing to me, even those other perspectives, because it describes how I think even if you are, let's say you're in the fitness world and you're going up on a stage and literally getting judged for every lump and bump on your body and what size it is and how it's shaped.
Yeah.
And then you have people still like calling you out on social media, and it's just wild. So I think it's too hard because you make so many assumptions about what you're not, right? Unless you've gone through it all. And I think there's people saying, well, it must be so nice to be so skinny, blah, blah, blah. And then other people are, I don't know. It's just, there's so much to say. And I think you did it so well, especially with adding those little touches of those extra characters.
Okay, well, thank you.
This book is so good. I'm just going to probably babble about it.
I know.
Thank you. I really, you know, I had written a book, or not a book, I'd written an article maybe like 4 years ago for Strong Fitness magazine. It was called Why Be Small, a Manifesto. And they bought it, but they were like, but can you make it less manifesto-ish and more about like why your goals should include like getting strong or strength training or something? So I did. I kind of rewrote it and we renamed it. But I always kind of wanted that manifesto. And I kind of felt like this book is like my manifesto, you know? And I took my first paragraph from that article, and it's in that book. It starts one of Ashley's chapters. Or maybe it doesn't start it, but for sure that paragraph, there was the paragraph that I had opened that article with ultimately got cut from that it didn't make it to print, and I really liked that paragraph, so I put it in Bodies to Die For somewhere. But I can almost even do the paragraph off the top of my head, sort of. It's something like it was like, in line at the grocery store, the magazine headline jumps out at me: lose 5 pounds in a week. Commercial on TV wants to help me drop 2 dress sizes in a month. Post on Instagram wants to help me achieve a thigh gap. They all want to help me be small. They can all bite me in my big, juicy glutes. And that was my opening on that article, and I really liked it. But they were like, yeah, it's too manifesto-ish, and they lined it. So I kept it, and I put it in this book, and I really feel like it's kind of like my manifesto. So, yeah, I'm happy with it.
Yeah. It really, it feels like that. And I did want to ask, like, how does it feel that, like, you wrote a book that incorporated so many of the messages that you've been getting since childhood and adulthood, like through all of it? How did it feel getting to like write this book about all of those experiences?
I'm so grateful. So, you know, I think, I can't remember if I mentioned it earlier. I had written a whole other book before this. I think I mentioned that right earlier, that I wrote a whole other book, didn't sell it, whatever. But that was a book I think I had to write for me. But this book here, like, I really, like, I dedicated it to all women everywhere. Like, I felt like I had to write this book for, like, the world. Like, I had to get this out there. And while I was, you know, once I got it mostly done, right, and I was starting to really feel good about it, like, I was like, you know, this is what I want to say. This is what I want to say. And I remember thinking to myself, like, I'm going to get it out there. I don't care what it takes. I'm going to get it out there. If I have to, you know, I'm going to like query every freaking agent in the world. I will. And if they won't, if I can't get an agent, I will put it up on Amazon. I'll give it away for free if I have to. Like, I'm getting this out there, man. It's going to get out there. And so to have it actually be out there, I've had, you know, some people that have, you know, first of all, I've had, you know, I've read some different Goodreads, you know, reviews where, like, you can tell by, like, the things, like, there's been different lines that people have lifted out of it that they've liked. And they've said, I love this line. And like, I remember writing that line and I really liked it too. To have it resonate with people has been, really rewarding. And then also I've, even when I already knew it was going to be published, but before I even had ARCs yet, and I started then talk. I didn't talk about it at all until I knew it was like going to be out there. But once I've been talking about it now, and I tell like different people about it, what I cannot get over is everybody's got their own diet culture horror stories. You know, like I've had so many people tell me like, so many, like, you know, childhood fat camps, or like moms on like constant diets, or like policing what goes in their lunch boxes or putting them on diets, and like, your grandmother's telling them that they need to lose weight, and it's so it's made me kind of feel like I'm really glad I got it out there, because a lot of other people were feeling these thoughts, and that there's just plenty of articles about it, but this was fiction. It was something I could kind of slip in, like I could kind of get that message in without beating everybody over the head with it, so that's, I don't know.
Yeah.
I've been banging on my drum for like 15 years about lifting weights and like getting strong, and so to be able to put it into a story instead of just exhaust everybody that I know about it was good.
Yes. Yeah. That's what I thought was like the coolest. Like I think I tried to find multiple ways to say it in my review, how there is this great message going on, and there's also this like totally classically good campy thriller world going on. Like, I'm not going to say some of the things because they definitely are spoilers, but some of the ways that you included like bits of the fitness world into murders was like so cool. There's also this whole fun thriller thing happening as well as a message happening.
Well, yes, part of it is it's just so insane that like, I mean, it's just ripe with the bodybuilding competitions. It's just ripe with material, So it was fun to be able to kind of like just, well, what if this happened, and what if that happened, and just to kind of play with it a bit. It was kind of fun.
It was so fun. So a few things. One, a nutrition coach that I have worked with, when I post about reading your book, and the first page, I thought it was super bold that you put like macros on there, because I was like, damn, here we go, right? I think I posted that, and she's like, as a nutrition coach, she lives in this world. And I said how one of the first people died, and she just like, oh my God. And so it was so awesome that way. It was amazing. And then two, speaking of the lines that really resonated, one for me was, frankly, they are insane. Most people aren't. That's why most people don't win. And I thought that was perfect and spot on.
It's true. It's true, man. It's true, right?
That's okay. Not everyone's body can run a marathon, but some people's can do it well, and that's okay. It's just different people are built for different stuff. And then my last question that I had was, where do you think that the bodybuild or the fitness world is going? Do you feel like it's going in the best direction? Because like, I see people probably like my mom's age when I was training, and how now it's kind of like, at least in the world that I've been in, it is cool to be strong now. It's cool to be like a little like thicker and have muscle. And I think it's awesome. And there were these women I was training. I was like, come on, X person. Like, let's work on that butt. Like, let's go. Like, it's cool to have a big butt now. And she's like, oh my God, no. Cause it's like pancake back then for that age. They can't even fathom.
Is she 50? Is she 50 or over?
Yes,
is she 50 or over?
Like my mom's age. And I'm just like, you couldn't convince someone that it was okay to have a butt. You know what I mean? Let alone something to strive for. So I'm hoping that this community is going in a direction that's a little more like healthy and positive, but I wanted to see what your thoughts on that were.
So I think it is for the younger generation, right? I think that they weren't raised quite as messed up as like, my generation was raised. But I still see, so right now I'm only teaching yoga classes. There have been at different points where I've taught group fitness and where I've taught spinning, but as the last group fitness class I taught, it was a group strength class, was maybe 3 months ago or something. I just did it as a sub. But I still see people who are probably my age or older. I would say, I'm thinking of what, I'll sometimes see people who are like, say 60 or 55, or so. And they'll want to be, they'll want to be thin, but they'll be afraid of, they'll still say that they're afraid of getting too bulky. And I'll be talking to somebody who's like 5'4" and 105 pounds. Okay. And she's maybe like 55, right? So I'm 54. So at my age plus, it's with the hormonal profile that you're going to have, you know, it's going to be everything you can do to put some muscle on. Like you can do it, right? You can do it, but it's not like you're just going to wake up bulky tomorrow. Like you got plenty of notice, right? It's going to take a really long time and a really concerted effort. So I think I think it's just I would hope, you know, we do see people my age and older who are, you know, I see them on Instagram and things, you know, people who are embracing lifting weights. I see them at the gym, but there is still that there's still a set of women, and I think it's because they were raised in that environment that, you know, I was kind of raised in. I think it's just sort of brainwashed them, you know. I don't know what else to, you know, maybe sometimes they come around. I mean, like I said, I see people who are my age or older who are lifting weights. There's a woman who I see every Saturday and Sunday at East Bank Club where I lift, who's in phenomenal shape, and she's probably like 5 pounds more than me and probably has 10 pounds more muscle or maybe not, but she's got a lot, but she's built, man. And I'm like so impressed by her. She can lift more than I can lift. And, I don't know, I'm really impressed. But so I think the overall, the general, I think it's been a good, we've seen so much progress, right? We've seen so much progress. We've also seen, women's sports be more embraced and not just, you know, not just gymnastics, but you know, because I was a gymnast, but we've seen like many more, you know, like women's rowing is being embraced, you know, or we've seen the emergence of CrossFit with women in CrossFit maybe in the last like 10 years or so, and that's been huge. So we're definitely seeing. I think we're moving in the right direction. I hope it stays that way. Because I think the more that you value getting strong, the less you worry about how you look to somebody else, you know, because it's just too much of an exterior. It's too much of an exterior vague thing, you know. But if you can say, I can snatch 100 pounds, you can snatch 100 pounds. There's nobody can take that away from you, you know?
Yes.
So yeah, I really like that, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I do think that, because I don't feel like the younger generations, I mean, every generation is probably going to have people who get obsessed with the body standard because it's never going to go away. But I do think more people, like, because it was still, I'm 32.
Oh, you're 32? Okay. Yeah.
Okay. And when I was in high school, it was like, I feel like it was just my senior year that all of a sudden people were kind of like, girls could lift weights and not be bulky. Like, it was the first time, but it was like shocking even at that time. But I feel like the classes beneath me probably did not grow up feeling that way.
Okay. It seems like a more healthy, it just seems like there's potentially, but I've only raised sons, right? So I didn't have, I don't know. Steph, do you have kids? Or Kate, do either one of you guys have kids?
I don't. I have two stepsons who are 11 and 14. And honestly, with the rise of social media, there have been like comments made about like their own bodies that I am just like shocked by. And I think it's because they're constantly scrolling through stuff and like the interest in supplements and the interest, I mean, their fat burners were brought up once and I was like, is this real life? Like, I just couldn't believe it. So I think there's a whole different way of finding body inspiration, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. I actually think it's harder I think it's where it's maybe gotten a little bit easier for women in the last 10 years. I think it might have gotten a little harder for men. Like when I was growing up, nobody really paid much attention to other than like a boy being big and strong. But like there wasn't, I don't think that there was quite as much pressure, I don't think, on guys then to be as like in shape as there might be now.
I can see that.
But I could potentially be wrong on that. But
I can see that. Definitely.
Yeah, that's a good point, though. They are a generation that are seeing more perfected images.
And these short clips, right, of like, this was my beginning and this is my end. And maybe 3 years went by, but it looks that just happened really quickly. So it is interesting.
Yeah, that's like in my book. I think in the first chapter, I just talking about the befores and the afters, right? Like Gemma was before, and now she's an after. But like just the prevalence of that, and and I can see it being like inspirational for somebody, but it can also be if you see yourself and you're a before, like how that might feel, when Gemma or when Ashley sees somebody who looks an awful lot like her, and that's a before, how that can just, what that can maybe, how that can make somebody feel. But I think ultimately, you're sort of also, if watching certain things on social media, like if you don't like certain aspects of it, you maybe don't want to be following.
Right.
certain, which is why, so I don't know. It's really tricky, right? It's super tricky, and I don't think I have all the answers, which is one of the reasons why I just kind of like wanted to write about it and explore it, because it's such a complex thing,
it really is.
It is.
And that's why it was ultimately just to be kind,
Exactly. As I was reading your book, I
like
thought
pretty
that.
simple, actually, too.
Because it was like, as we're writing, like, for example, someone like Andrew, one of the characters in your book, I'm like, why would you even write that? Couldn't you just keep scrolling? Like, why are people even writing things on people's stuff? Like, it just blows my mind. So, I mean,
I know.
Hopefully people can learn something or re-examine their actions a little bit if they read your book.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope so. I think it's Mike Tyson. I'm going to get the quote wrong. I heard some quote by him just a little while ago, something like, social media has made you all way too comfortable disrespecting people without worrying about getting punched in the face. Something like that. Yes. Like when I grew up, like you couldn't say things like that, because if you did, you'd have to say it to a person's face, and you actually might get punched in the face. But now, now there's for the anonymity factor,
Yeah, that is the whole other thing that we haven't talked about in this book, but it also examines social media in really cool ways as well.
Yeah.
Especially since that's where a lot of the body image conversations are happening. So.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was kind of deliberate in the first part of the book, it just goes, Gemma, Ashley, Gemma, Ashley, Gemma, Ashley. You kind of fall into that lull, just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But they've been living their lives on social media, right? And so the last post right before you get into peak week is from Andrew. And it's in a third point of view, right? The other two have been in first person point of views. So all of a sudden you're like kind of more removed, and you're up and you're looking in on these two, and then you just realize, like, there's been somebody watching this whole time, right? This whole time you guys have all been carrying on, there's been another person watching you guys. And so that was that's right where it kind of amps up things. You fall into peak week, and then everything just goes crazy. But because we often we think that we're living our lives, but we throw all this stuff out there, but there's other people are watching you live that life,
Right.
You welcome others, and I mean, I'm on Instagram myself, right? So like you are welcoming other people into your world a bit, and you just have to be aware of that, So.
And you went there with that perspective. I was like, whoa, in like a good way. I mean, you don't know what people are. Like you just said, you invite people in. You don't know what they're looking for.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really enjoy there. And so, woo!
Yeah.
I was like, you go, Lori, because I mean, I was like, that's probably 100% true.
Like 20% of those followers.
Yeah. Anyway,
now everyone needs to read it so they can know what we're talking about. She goes there. I know, and it felt very male. That felt It felt like a man wrote it. A man was writing a man.
Yes. I felt the same way, because I was like, wow, when you read a multiple perspective book and it really feels like you're really in a different person's brain, I find that so impressive.
Yeah. All right, well, thanks. He was fun to write. He was really fun to write.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Did
bet.
you intend for it to be did you intend for it to be like a little satirical, or was your intention like, this is what I see and this is what happens? Because I couldn't really, like, it seemed
That's a good question.
almost like a satire, but not really, honestly. So what was your thought?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the stuff that I wanted it to, I wanted to be like as I saw it, but some of it is so ridiculous that it is funny. You know what I mean? There's parts about it that are just like stuff that we experience and that we live. It's just crazy, some of it, and I kind of wanted to plumb that craziness. Also, you know, if you're gonna, a thriller has a lot of dark elements, and this book, it's exploring some kind of dark elements, right? There's some heavy subject matter, you know, with the body shaming and the body wars and things like that. That if you can lighten it up a little bit, you know, you introduce some levity, and I think it just helps to make it be more entertaining. I also think if you're able to, if you can laugh about something, you don't have to cry about it, you know. And it was funny initially. I think Kate, you had seen, or maybe you had seen in the at the very back when I originally wrote this book, or when I was querying it. Originally, I only queried women. I didn't think any. I didn't think a guy would. I just didn't see a male agent. Really, I thought
wasn't the first.
Really, I didn't think he didn't know what we were talking about, right? But there was this one agent who I really admired, right? He's kind of like an agent for the stars, right? And I thought, well, you know, you miss 100% of the chances you don't take. And so I queried him. I didn't get him as an agent, but I queried him on a Saturday night. I'll never forget this. I sent the query off, God, at like 10 o'clock or something on a Saturday night, because I was just querying people like crazy back then. And then I went to bed. And I woke up at 2 a.m, and because I'm in the thick of querying, what do? I check my phone to see if I have any email, right? So 2 a.m, I look at my phone, and he wrote me back. And so like in the middle of the night, and he's in California, and I was like, whoa. And so I read it, and he said, you know, he thought it was he thought it looked good, but you know, he's not taking any new clients right now. But he recommended a different, a younger agent that he knew that he thought might find it appealing. He said, see that other agent. And I thought that was the last of it. But then like an hour later, maybe even 2 hours later, he emailed one more time. He goes, oh, one more thing. If you could make it the tone, I think if you can get the tone right, you know, you might have something. He goes, I think if you can make the tone subversive, you might have something. And so I like wrote the word subversive on a pink Post-it note, and I stuck it on the inside of my bathroom mirror. And I kind of like honed in on that subversive, you know, like I wanted to make it subversive and just kind of explore that, you know, with like that dark humor a bit if I could. And that's kind of where it went. Yeah. And so that was the agent that I have is a guy. Those are the only guys I queried out of like 60 people. It was all women. And then when we were going to take the book out, I think my agent took it to maybe 6 or 8 acquiring editors. And only one of those was a guy. And it was Daniel Ehrenhaft, I think is how you pronounce it, at Blackstone, who bought it. So you never know, right? You never know who something's going to appeal to. Yeah.
That is such a cool story. Yeah, I loved that though when I read that in the acknowledgments about subversive, because I was like, yes, that is exactly what I just read. Like,
yeah, I like leaned into it, man.
And I think that's what made it still kind of like neutral enough to just like explore all of the sides. I feel like that really helps.
So you know, there's a bookstagrammer who, when she reviewed it, she said it reminded her a little bit of Fight Club. And the Bibliopeaks is the bookstagrammer, but I felt like I was kind of channeling Fight Club a bit when I wrote it, actually. So it was really interesting that she picked up on that. But yeah, and another book, another book that was when Steph, I think you had pointed out the macros at the top of some of those chapters. So I kind of stole sort of that idea from the book Dietland. Did you guys ever read Dietland? You must read Dietland. Oh my God. Dietland came out like 10, 12 years ago. It was so good. But anyway, throughout Dietland, she drops calories constantly. She'll be like,
Nice.
she had like a granola bar, then she'll put in parentheses 120, or she have some coffee, free food in parentheses. But throughout there, yes, Dietland by Saray Walker.
Nice.
Yep.
Okay.
And you can, and that is, so I think, who described it? It might have been BuzzFeed. Somebody described it as Fight Club meets Margaret Atwood. It's really good. Ooh. It's really good. It's nice. But and you can I feel like you can see echoes of Dietland in my book.
Nice.
You gotta read it. You guys both have to read it. You guys have to read it. It's so good.
Yeah.
Like it's women like women who are tired of being objectified, like they like start to destroy. They should just tear things down. Like men fall from the sky.
That's our alley.
Oh my God.
So that's our alley.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, yeah.
Really yeah. I have one more question, Kate, but whatever.
I can't remember.
My last one was, because I forgot last time we talked to an author about this. Do you know who's narrating your audiobook? And
so I not off the top of my head. I'd have to like dig back through my email or something. My agent, when we signed the contract, this was actually good of him. He wrote into our contract that we got final approval of the narrators. And so there's 3 different narrators. There's a woman for Ashley, there's a woman for Gemma, and then there's a third person, a male one who does all the third person point of views. And so Blackstone sent us 3 different narrators for each different voice, so a total of 9. And my agent and I got to choose which ones we wanted. So I technically know, but I don't remember who they were, because I'm not big into audiobooks. So like their names didn't mean much to me. But yeah,
I just think it's awesome to get a full cast, especially for one of your first one of your first books to have a full cast audio is awesome, because I think people really love that. Yeah. So I think congratulations.
I hope so. I'm not much of an audiobook listener, and it's so interesting. So when he had written that into the contract, I didn't think much of it. Right, I thought, sure, whatever, because I didn't think I'd have much of an opinion on who narrated it. And then we heard these voices, and the guys, I was like, yeah, okay, like maybe this one. And Gemma, like I was like, okay, I think like one of these 2. But on Ashley, the first person I heard, I was like, oh, that is not what Ashley sounds like. I was like, I knew for sure that was not Ashley. And so I'm really glad that he wrote that in, because I don't know why, but I just knew that wasn't Ashley. I was like, that's the wrong voice. So it did matter to me,
That's cool.
Yeah. But so there will be an audiobook. It's for sure coming out in audio. Yeah.
Nice. I can't remember where I read this. It might have been, you know what it was? I think it was, I read your article with Hallie Sutton on her.
Oh yeah, her blog or too many tabs. Too many tabs.
There we
go.
Her
Substack. Yeah.
That's what it was. Her Substack. But you are working on another book right now that kind of tackles some fun themes too.
Yeah. So, and now this one hasn't sold yet. We haven't taken it out yet. I think we're close to taking it out. But one of the themes it tackles, one of the main characters in this book is going to be an OnlyFans creator. And it's tackling the topic of sex work, right? Because I actually think that sex work should be decriminalized, and I think it's a human rights thing. I think it's a woman's rights thing, right? Like I think we should be able to do what we want with our bodies, right? If you want to make money off your body, you ought to be able to, right? And and so that's something that I'm kind of interested in, is that area where people tell us what we can and can't do with our bodies. So. Yes, that's where I'm going next. I don't know if we'll be able to sell it. I hope we can sell it. It's so hard to sell a book.
I will sell it to readers. Okay. We'll figure it out.
Dang, Lauren. Yeah. Woo.
I know.
I know, because I was like, I hope, like, after I read your thing about how you like felt called to write this book, I was like, obviously I think that's so cool, but I was like, I hope that means she feels called to write other books too. Like, I hope there will be another one. So I'm super excited that there's gonna be another one. I just can't wait to be interviewing you about that one in the future. We'll just put that out there.
Yeah, this is what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that, you know, if we sell it, I'm hoping it won't take 2 years to come out. This one right now, Bodies to Die For, it's 2 years from when we sold it. You know, it's a really long. Publishing is so slow, man. I can't even believe how slowly it moves. Isn't it crazy? Yeah. And it's so crazy too that like all of it is, at least for fiction, or at least if you're like me, it's all done like with the hope that it will work. Yeah, like at least with like nonfiction, like you write it on proposal, or like if you're like further, like if you're a bigger name author, like you can sell a book without having to write the whole thing. But like if you're me, you like write the whole book and hope somebody buys it, you know? Right. So it's crazy.
Yeah, it is very different. It's rough. Yeah.
But that's what's so nice though about how now some people are self-publishing too, which I think has been a good thing, you know, because there's more options and things. So
you can basically always decide to do that if you wanted to.
Like, it just seems like a lot of work though to do like that's not like my area. Like I like to like write the book and everything, but like to have to do the whole business aspect of it, just you know, it seems like a lot of work, you know, a lot of work that I'm not interested in.
It definitely is.
You know? Yeah,
it's like my friend Audra, who's going to be on here soon. She has self-published 2 books in the time that it like took. I don't know. Basically, like her agents were taking forever, and so she was like, "I'm just like, we're just gonna go. I'm just gonna publish it." And she's had like good results, but she has talked about everything that she has to do for it. So
yeah. And then you're the one that's paying for all that too. Like where if you get traditionally published, you know, you're not out anything, right? You know, they pay you, so that's the other thing too. So I don't know.
It is.
I don't know.
So exciting though. I just saw double checked my email that my copy's getting delivered tomorrow. So yeah.
Oh, really?
So
nice.
Oh, you don't have a copy?
I had a NetGalley ebook.
Oh, you mean like a hardcover?
Yeah, my Barnes & Noble email came in that I'm getting my physical book tomorrow. But isn't it early?
Really?
I thought it was coming out late.
Yeah, because it's the release date's June 11th, but maybe it comes. I have no idea why it would come early. I don't know, but maybe they're just mailing it early.
I'm not sure. Maybe who knows? Because I thought it seemed early as well. There was another book I recently got that got to me early too. But it just to me seems like full circle, right? Like you've been waiting so long, and now people are like starting to get their pre-orders, which is pretty cool.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Well, I remember the first time holding it in my hands. You know, it's really something. You know, to go from like what was it lived completely in your head, and now here it is in your hands. It's just crazy. Yeah. You know. Yeah, it's a really good feeling. I mean, it's like there's like having your kids, and then there's like having your book. Like your kids are a 10, your book's like a 9. You know, it's like right under there. You know, yeah.
That is so cool.
I think so too. Yeah.
Well, I am looking forward to posting more about it as the release date comes, and reminding everyone to.
Please do. There's so many books, you know, that get released all the time. So like any help I can get is so appreciated, because there's just thousands and thousands of books that just continually get released, you know. Yeah.
Well, if you have been listening to this podcast, you want to read this book.
Buy the book.
The podcast as a whole. I think it applies to most of our thriller readers.